Well, hello everyone. My name is Bhante Wade, and I'm here at Empty Cloud Monastery. Bhante Sudaso has asked me to do another guided meditation this evening. It's become the trend on Wednesday nights, and you can find previous guided meditations on the YouTube channel as well if you ever want to go back in time and do any of the previous ones. They're all stored there. Perhaps I'll say a little bit more to introduce myself for those of you who are watching for the first time. As I said, my name is Bhante Wade Puripanyo, and I'm a monk ordained in the Ajahn Chah lineage of Thailand. Ordained in 2014 in Rayong province at a branch monastery of Wat Nong Papong. And came back to the United States in 2023. Spent the spring here at Empty Cloud Monastery, and then came back again a few months ago, 4 months ago, and I'm spending the Wasa here with Bhante Sudaso and Ayawadha. We have Ayawadha with me here in the library where we're doing this live stream, as well as four lay people who are staying here at the monastery as well, living by the monastery schedule and deepening their practice. And as I said, we'll be doing a guided meditation this evening, and I just pasted into the chat box a link to a document you can use to follow along, because I think this evening we'll do a guided meditation based on loving kindness, starting with some loving kindness chanting. And so if you follow that link, it'll take you to a PDF document that is just one page. Actually, I think the document is 3 pages, I should say, but only the first page actually has print on it. And so I'll give you a moment to access that and bring it up on your screen or print it out. You should be able to print it out. You can download it to keep as well. And give you a little bit of information about the document here. It is adapted from chants taken from the Forest Sangha chanting book, the chanting book published by Amarwati Monastery in England, a monastery also in the Ajahn Chah lineage. And the first chant is the suffusion with the divine abidings, and I've taken the first verse from that, which is specifically about loving kindness. The full chant also has verses about compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. But I've taken just the verse about loving kindness, because that's going to be the focus of the practice this evening. And then the second half of this front sheet has the reflection on universal well-being, which is the actual practice of loving kindness in the first 2 long verses there, but also a line which encapsulates the practice of compassion, and another line which encapsulates the practice of sympathetic joy. And so both of these come from the suttas originally. And this first one, the suffusion with the divine abidings, is an indication from the Buddha about the ultimate aspiration, the highest aspiration of cultivating the Brahma Viharas, this one in particular, loving kindness. And so it's the kind of the aspiration we would have in practicing loving kindness. Whereas this, the reflection on universal well-being is the actual practice, how we get to that very high level of attainment in loving kindness. All right. So I'm looking at the chat box here to see if there's any information coming in about any problems with accessing this document or using it. I'll look for another moment or two and see if there are any questions, and also see if there are any questions from the group that's assembled here in the library for this live stream. And it's all pretty straightforward, isn't it? Yes, so good, okay. And not seeing any problems showing up in the chat box, except an indication that in Florida, southeast Florida, it's pretty windy, and yes, apparently they're having some stormy weather coming their way, so I hope they're able to weather that. And good luck to you, Norma, down there, and several other people sending in sadhus and in Anjalis. And so it looks like we'll be able to go ahead. So the idea of this chanting is that we'll start off first with 3 namotasas. It's homage to the Buddha. And then we'll proceed into chanting in rounds, repetitions, going down the sheet and then starting again at the beginning. The way it's scored, we have the title for each section, and then directly under the title we have an introductory line that I will chant. The leader chants this. So for example, in the first chant, the Suffusion with the Divine Abidings, that introductory line is, "Now let us make the 4 boundless qualities shine forth." I have to change this. It's still kind of rough, I have to admit. This hasn't reached its final form. I'm going to chant instead, "Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth," because that's what we're focusing on here, and not all 4 of the balanced qualities. So I'll chant, "Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth." And then we'll chant through this. The next, the introductory phrase, I should say, "I will abide," is also something chanted by the lead chanter. Anything in brackets is chanted by the lead chanter. So I'll chant the introductory line, and then "I will abide," and then we all join in together, chanting with pervading 1/4, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. And proceed through that verse at the top of the top half of the page. And then we get down to the second half of the page, and I'll chant the introductory line, "Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being." And then the introductory line, "May I abide in well-being," and then we all join in together, "In freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility," and so on. And there are tone marks on the page showing where we rise in our tone and where we lower our tone, with the arrows there, as well as indications of lengthening the vowel durations. That would be a line under a syllable or under a word. Where we have a line under a syllable or under a word, it indicates that we lengthen the vowel duration. An example of this is in the last line of the first verse on the reflection on universal well-being. "And may I maintain well-being in myself." Maintain has a long duration to it relative to normal chanting. So once we do this, once we go through once or twice, you'll all get the hang of it. So I went through that explanation pretty quickly, but you'll get the hang of it. You'll get the hang of it more easily as we chant through it. And we'll be doing several rounds of this. Occasionally, I will pause and I'll give some changes to the instructions as we become more familiar with the chanting. So we'll do this chanting for a while and see how it goes, and may transition into kind of more formal, traditional loving kindness meditation, also the guided meditation towards the end, but we'll start out with this. And as I said, we'll start out with Namo Tassa 3 times. And so we'll put our hands together in Anjali. And all together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. All right, so now we'll continue chanting rounds of this, and I'll chant the introductory line for each section. But then when we get to the first phrase of the chanting that's in brackets, we can just all chant that together instead of me chanting individually. All right, we'll start again with the suffusion with the divine abidings. Now let us make the four boundless qualities, now let us make our loving kindness shine forth. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Now let us make our loving kindness shine forth. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Now we will make another transition in the chanting to chanting just the reflection on universal well-being. And so I will chant the introductory line the first time. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. And then we'll just chant in rounds together, skipping that introduction. Just chanting in rounds, starting with may I abide in well-being. We'll chant through this several times, those verses on universal well-being. All right. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. maybe a little bit slower next time. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Last round. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. Wonderful. Now I would like to invite everyone to adjust your posture or move into your meditation posture. You can sit however you like, or you can practice this in a standing posture. You can sit on the floor or in a chair, or you can even practice this lying down if you like. And going into our meditation posture, we'll transition into, I think, kind of a more, maybe a more, it might seem like more of a traditional kind of formal loving kindness meditation. So remember that heart of goodwill we've been developing, these good wishes for ourselves and for all beings. And then we focus in on the feeling in the heart. If you imagine the heart here in the middle of the chest, and take a moment to imagine your heart there, and imagine your heart coming to rest there with this feeling of goodwill that you have. Imagine your heart coming down into the chest from wherever it may be. Experiencing it with your sense of feeling. Imagining your spiritual heart there in the middle of your chest with this feeling of goodwill that we've been developing, this feeling of loving kindness. Right there in the middle of the chest, and get in touch with that and just experience it for a few moments. And then I would like you to imagine someone that you have a great deal of admiration for, someone you admire, someone you would respect. Hopefully someone in your life now, perhaps a teacher or a relative. Just call them to mind and share with them a good wish. May you be happy. Think for them, may you be happy. You can picture them if that's convenient. And maintain this wish for them. Perhaps repeating that phrase if it's helpful. May you be happy. And then I would like you to call to mind someone whom you really love. Hopefully someone in your life now, perhaps a parent or a sibling or a very dear friend. And share this wish of goodwill with them as well. Now share it with them. Perhaps with this phrase also, may you be happy. So you can repeat this phrase if you find it helpful. You can picture them in your heart. You can even imagine giving them a hug if you like. With this wish, may you be happy. And then we'll slowly transition, as is comfortable, to someone else, someone whom we like, we have a good relationship with. Perhaps another friend or a sibling or another relative. And we'll share with this person or this being this same loving kindness, wishing them, may you be happy. Or any other phrase that works well for you. You can imagine them in your heart, you can picture them, and if you like, you can imagine giving them a hug and thinking, may you be happy, sharing this feeling of caring with them. And I would like to transition to thinking of someone else whom you like, you have a good relationship with. Perhaps another friend, or another relative, or perhaps a pet. If you have a pet, or a favorite animal, a friend's pet, for example. And thinking of them, share this loving kindness with them as well. And then I would like us to transition to ourselves. Think of ourselves. And just thinking of ourselves, think, may I be happy? Or use whatever phrase works well for you. Try to stay with this theme, thinking again and again, may I be happy? As we are similar to every other being in the world, in the sense that we are another being and we also deserve to be happy, just like any other being. And then I would like you to think of something good that you did today. Maybe an act of generosity, or an act of service you performed for someone else, doing a favor for them or something good, or a gift you made, however small or large, some act of generosity, or perhaps an act of worship, or meditating, such as you can remember this loving kindness chanting we did. And having called to mind something good that you did today, notice this. That is something good that I did. And then I would like you to think about something good that you did yesterday. Again, it could be an act of generosity, or an act of service, or an act of worship, or meditation perhaps. Any act of goodness, and calling it to mind, recognize that that is something good that I did. And then just think in recent days of another good thing that you've done. And recognize it too as that is something good that I did. And then we'll think back to one more in recent days or recent weeks, something that comes to mind. It could also be undertaking precepts, for example. And then recognize that is something good that I did. And we can share the merit of these good things. Thinking of our parents, may our parents share in the merit and the goodness of all of these good things. Just this simple thought, may they share in the merit of all these good things. And we can think of our grandparents. May they share in the goodness of these good things that I've done. And may my parents and my grandparents share in all of the merit, all of the goodness of all good things I have ever done. In all of the goodness of all of the good things I have ever done. Then we'll come back to ourselves and wish ourselves well with some more loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. And may I be free of suffering. And we just let go of any suffering we may have in the heart. May I be free of suffering. And let any cares or troubles just dissipate, just let them go, let them ease on out. And then we'll share merit one last time by thinking, and I share all of my merit, all of the goodness, the good things I've ever done with anyone I've ever harmed in a long round of rebirths. If there's anyone I have ever harmed in the long round of rebirths, I share with them all of the goodness of all the good things I have ever done. May they be happy. May they be free of suffering. We don't have to try to think of them. We can just use this idea. Any beings that I've ever harmed in the long round of rebirths, I share all of my merit with them. And then we can mindfully raise our hands and join them palm to palm in front of our hearts out of gratitude and respect for the meditation. Feel those emotions in the heart. And then we can rejoice in the goodness we've all done together, everyone's practice, by three times saying sadhu in unison. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Then we can mindfully lower our hands again and adjust our posture if we like. Mindfully noticing the interest and intention to change our posture, and mindfully moving as we like. We may open our eyes if we've had them closed and notice how we feel in a feeling of goodwill and loving kindness and compassion in the heart. And we'll see if there are any questions about the practice, either from those who are watching the live stream or from those who are here with us in the library live. Give a moment for anyone to type something in. Take a look at the comments that have come in so far. Many people sending in Anjali's. Another good wish for Norma in Southeast Florida. May she be well and safe. Yes, we all wish that for everyone down there. May everyone in Florida be well and safe. And, right, everyone is looking very, very peaceful and very happy here in the library at Empty Cloud Monastery. It's really wonderful chanting. Everyone sounded really like a group of angels. It was really, really beautiful. And so any of you here in the library, if you'd like to keep this chanting, or if you'd like even additional copies, you can take them with you. Or if you like, you can leave them with me. And of course, everyone at home, you have access to this link, and so you can look it up, and you can do this this chanting and this practice anytime you like. It will be on the YouTube channel, Buddhist Insights at Empty Cloud. And you can access any of the previous guided meditations there as well. If you go to the YouTube channel and then click on Live for the live streams, then you'll see them listed out in chronological order, as you see all the other kinds of live streams as well. One was done just this morning, a Dhamma talk or Sutta study, and you can scroll back and find them all chronologically. So you can do guided meditations or listen to Dhamma talks or Sutta studies anytime you like. All right. It looks like we have another comment or question coming in? Norma in Florida says that says thank you. When you chanted slowly at the end, it was blissful. Wonderful. Thank you. Another thank you from Amaranta. Glad you all enjoyed it.
Can I ask a question, Anton?
Yes, yes.
So in the past you have mentioned talking about that you had heard from some teachers the idea that merit, specific deeds of merit could be shared once. I noticed in this meditation we shared merit with our parents and also with our karmic predators, or is it debtors? Predators. So I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit, about the idea of sharing merit, if there's a kind of limit or a specific kind of dedication that can be made, or if the same act can be recollected again and again and again and shared again and again and again with different people over and over.
Right.
I wonder if you had any thoughts on that, or maybe related reflections.
Right. Okay, yeah, great question. I'm sure by other people curious about this as well. And so, yes, say, in Thailand, I ordained in Thailand, and the meditation masters there recommend sharing merit with our parents and other deceased relatives, and also with any beings that we've harmed in the past. And there's a term for these beings. Traditionally, it's been translated into English as comic debtors. This is actually, unfortunately, it's not quite right, because it should be comic creditors. It's those whom we owe, you could say. So those beings we've harmed in the past, so comic creditors. And so, so as I understand it, we can share the merit of any good deed, whether it be generosity or service, or listening to Dhamma, or reading about Dhamma, for example. That's another kind of good karma, you know, or practicing meditation, chanting, any of these different kinds of things. We can share the merit of a good deed like these with any of these beings, and they can receive this merit once. Okay. And so we can either share merit of an individual good deed, you know, may so and so share in the merit of this good deed, or we can share all merit. And so they say that it's most effective when the mind is calm. And so it's especially good to do it after we've been meditating. So if we have a daily meditation practice, we can make that a practice as well. Once we've meditated, then to share merit with these classes of beings. And just simply say, I share all merit. I share all my merit with for example, my comic creditors, or with my parents, or with my deceased relatives, and so on like this. Or, of course, as you like, you know, if it feels good, you know, anytime you do a good deed, you can share the merit then. This is traditional in the monastery. So, for example, if you come into the monastery and make offerings of food or other requisites for the monastic community, then oftentimes the monastics will chant a blessing, rejoicing in the good deed. It's called an anumotana chant, or blessing. Anumotana actually literally means rejoicing in the good deed. And this is actually good karma for the monastics, so they can share this merit also. But then it's an opportunity to rejoice. And at that time, it's traditional for those who made the merit, who made the offering, to share the merit with their comic creditors and others. And oftentimes they'll use a decanter. It's very traditional to do this, a decanter and a ceremonial bowl. And they pour out slowly, very slowly, throughout the chanting of the Anumotana, the water. And this symbolizes the sharing. And so it helps them to focus the mind on this act of sharing of merit. Sometimes, though, any vessel and any decanter can work. So even a glass or a bottle of water into a bowl, whatever happens to be on hand that's clean. And so as we do it in a respectful way and with a sincere heart of sharing this merit. And yes, and then so once we share the merit of a good deed, we can share it once with anyone we like. We can share it with all beings, or share the merit of any good deed with as many different beings as we like. And then once we've shared it, then we just go about making more merit, doing more good deeds, more good things, and then we can continue sharing merit with these beings. Yeah. As they say, when you share merit, that if the being is another human being, or if they're an animal, then they'll experience it as a wonderful feeling. So it could be the experience of power in the heart, or the experience of calm. The heart can become very calm, or they could experience even rapture, or gladness, or a great deal of happiness, And so this is a wonderful feeling. If they are someone who has like a ghost, who has an energy body, then it's much more easily transformed. And so even if you share a lot of merit with them, all at once, then they even could perhaps attain a higher rebirth spontaneously. But even if it isn't a great deal of merit, a little bit of merit, they say this is for ghosts. This becomes the food that they subsist on, the food that they can eat. And so it's highly recommended to frequently share merit with one's deceased relatives, just in case. This kind of thing, yeah. So those are some ideas, some more about sharing merit. And, did anyone else have a question? I saw some hands of Anjali, maybe it was just gratitude for the teaching is so wonderful, yes. Yes, Joe?
If I could get some feedback on the view I had about loving kindness, just to make sure I have the right view.
Sure.
So I was thinking about, I've heard a lot of times that people in the West find it difficult to give metta to themselves. And I was wondering if it's correct to understand metta isn't personal. Metta isn't about your personality.
Yeah.
Metta is about the fact that you're a being, you're a sentient being. So regardless if you're good, bad, old, tall, short, it's like the fact that you're a living being is you are something that metta delights in the thought of you being happy, for lack of a better word. Maybe it doesn't think about you. It's more like the object of metta is a living being. So that's all you need to. That's all it needs for it to be bright. At the thought of you prospering and happy.
Yes, so wonderful. Yes, that's right. Yes. It's kind of like in that aspiration we were chanting, this fusion with the divine abidings. I will, how does it go exactly? To all as to myself, right? Above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. And so that implies, we're sharing this wonderful loving kindness with all beings, and to ourselves as well. And we're similar in that we're all living beings, right? And I think for many of us, maybe most of us, or all of us, it feels quite natural to think that it's a wonderful thing to share loving kindness with all living beings, and to have this kind of mindset that all living beings deserve to be happy, and we want them to be happy. And that this is good for us, to cultivate this wish for others, also. This is a very good thing, But similarly, it's just as good, to cultivate this for ourselves. And we can also look on ourselves as being a living being just like any other living being. And so we're just as worthy of loving kindness as other living beings are. Yes, so there's this evenness about it. And actually we've been very similar to other living beings in previous lives. For example, it says in the scriptures that any suffering you see another being experiencing, you can think to yourself that in the past, in some rebirth, you've experienced suffering of a very similar sort, or even exactly like that. And in the same with pleasure, that if you see somebody experiencing pleasure of any sort, you can think that in the past you've experienced some very similar pleasure, or even perhaps the exact same pleasure. And according to Buddhist philosophy, we've gone through so many different rebirths, stretching back, to such a point that even the Buddha himself couldn't find a beginning point, wandering on in samsara. And we've been all different kinds of living beings. We've been animals, we've been ghosts, we've been human beings, we've been devas. And so there's this kind of impersonal quality to it, that we have this similarity with all other living beings. And so we can think that we're worthy of loving kindness just like other living beings. And it's a very good thing, it's very meritorious, it's very wholesome to wish this kind of goodwill for ourselves. And this will help lift our spirits and help us to be better people, actually, also. It'll have a wonderful benefit for ourselves and for others around us. And so it's truly meritorious and highly recommended, by in the suttas and by the masters to try and practice in this way. All right. Well, maybe we'll take this opportunity to Anumotana again, raising our hands together, and say 3 times sadhu to rejoice in each other's practice. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And then we can pay our respects to the Triple Gem by bowing 3 times to the Buddha image, either whatever Buddha image you have there at home, or the Buddha image here above my head, if you like. Then we can bow to our parents and to our teachers 3 times. Okay, and so we'll draw this live stream to a close. I hope you had a wonderful evening. Feel free to type in any comments, if you have any suggestions for improvement also, or constructive criticism, and as well as any thoughts about the practice or your experience this evening. And best wishes to you all. May you all be well and happy. Until next time, goodbye.